Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street, the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance Sexton, thank you for joining us. John Riossi, reporter of American Banker, and Katie Roach, our editor. Thank you all for joining us. Time out of your busy Thursday. John, what's going on? I'm off script, but I want to know what's going on.
Well, there's a lot going on. I think you've already talked about it a lot, Bob, in some of the shows earlier this week with the problem solvers and their proposal that sort of a grand bargain on stimulus, and it certainly would simulate, for want of a better word, PPP, get it really back in action. Beyond that, a story we're working on, I think it's been announced already, but we're working on the story, and that is the Loan Source, which has been buying up PPP portfolios from community banks and would like to continue buying more. I can't. I just proved it. They have chosen Biz2Credit to be their forgiveness partner, and Biz2Credit's platform will power their, when it comes time to really dig into forgiveness, it will power their effort and their portal, and that's number 2 for Biz2Credit because in July AICPA used them to be the backbone for their portal. Their PPP Forgiveness tool, as they're calling it. So obviously good for Biz2Credit.
Yeah, the Loan Source is one of the 14 SBLC licenses. They're based out of New York. Biz2Credit's outside of New York. If you're going to call them a loan brokerage firm, that's probably a little, because they do have direct funding, Biz2Credit.
They do have direct funding. And they have bought, I guess what they had on their website today was, in dollar terms, $2.9 billion, more than that, a little bit more than that, of PPP loans, 22,000 individual loans, and they are looking for more. I talked with one of their officials, and they said they are in active talks with a number of banks.
Yeah, well, good for Rohit and his crew there.
Yes.
I'll go back on script. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. There's a certificate. And to segue, are you going, that can also be planning. Are you planning on outsourcing your PP loans? Are you doing that? And when I say outsource, John, what do I mean by that? What's my definition of outsourcing?
I guess, for me, are you going to be using another entity to do your PPP lending, sort of the loan source? If it will be a white label arrangement where they will do it and behind the scenes, or whether you sell your portfolio and sort of they become the active PPP participant. I'm in trouble today, but where someone else would be doing the lending for you.
85% no. Katie, does that surprise you?
We've asked some similar questions, and honestly, that doesn't surprise me. We've kind of been hovering around that with the other question, so I think that's kind of I've been hearing, actually.
Lance, when you're the lender making this decision whether to keep it or outsource it, what are the bullet points that you're going to be considering?
Well, and I'm not speaking on behalf of my institution, but I'm just talking about lenders in general. The longer this forgiveness piece drags on, the more challenging things like, talking about the idle advances being reduced and potentially a balance remaining on the PPP loans. The longer these types of issues drag on, I think you'll see that number go from 10% to a much higher percentage. Most participant banks got into PPP thinking, okay, we'll do this in March and April, and we'll be out of it before the end of the year. Well, our reality is a good goal would be to be out of it by the end of 2021, not 2020. So You may see more banks that want to outsource.
Yeah, and we got an email yesterday from someone, and I apologize, I misplaced, but they said they're anticipating 5 years. So definitely, definitely a different mindset than we went into this. What's go ahead, John.
I apologize for interrupting, Bob, but forgiveness will become a big determinant of that, because I was just talking to a banker today, and they went ahead and they said they have filed this is small institutions, so they filed a total of 3 forgiveness applications, mainly because they wanted to test it out. In 2 cases, they were reaching, it was time to do that for them. But they were surprised at the level of work, and these were some of their bigger loans, but still they were surprised at the level of work that's involved. And so if there's not any type of forgiveness solution or streamlining that comes out of Congress,
Katie, we did some numbers. Katie, what were the numbers? 22 loans submitted, 40 loans, 7 loans, and no response from SBA yet, correct?
Right. Of course, it might take a little while. I've heard some people are starting to submit now. I haven't heard of anybody actually hearing back from the SBA yet, though.
Right. It should be noted for SBA that they have 90 days.
Right.
They have 90 days, so I don't know how long it's been since people submitted, but 3 months is quite a while. So it's still, there's probably some weeks yet before they'll hear back.
Well, John, I'm sorry, Lance. Let me ask this, and I'll get to you in a second. John, so the 2 questions, do we still have a bipartisan support? When's this going to get done?
I think it has a good deal of bipartisan support. If you go back, and you may have already covered this, but that group, the Problem Solvers Caucus, they have, I believe it's 50 plus members, and they said 75% have signed on to the package that, so that's 30 plus. And then, the co-signers on the other PPP legislation that is, that's already been introduced. Everyone I've talked to, the bankers, the legislators, when it comes to PPP, specifically PPP,
right,
there's a broad consensus on some type of streamlined forgiveness, as well as more money for PPP. The problem solvers seem to be in line with what the Republican plan had provided, which was 190 for PPP, and then they added, I believe it was 50 billion for EIDL to make 240 billion total. They're calling it under that PPP sort of banner, but a significant portion would be for EIDL, $50 billion, the EIDL loans.
I mean, these numbers are astronomical. Just my eyes glaze over when we throw these numbers out. Lance, you wanted to jump in?
Well, and I think one of the big questions, and I know we have a lot of SBA team members that listen to us and participate in this. What are banks to do on PPP loans? When it originally came out, there was a 6-month deferral. Then the Flexibility Act passed, and the Flexibility Act said they had 10 months to apply for forgiveness, and there were no payments required until they apply for forgiveness. So big question pops up, Bob. How do we take care of that servicing issue? We've got a loan on the books with a 6-month deferral. Does the bank just unilaterally, I mean, you can do a unilateral deferral if you look at the unilateral authority matrix, but does the bank just redo the docs himself and move on down the road with an added deferral period? Because many of these loans are now coming to the end of that 6-month deferral. SBA really, and maybe I missed it, has not addressed how does the bank handle all of these hundreds of thousands or millions of loan servicing actions that need to take place to extend that deferred period?
I'm going to ask each of you a question. I am going to recuse myself because I picked July 4th as the date it would get done. John, I'll start with you. Give me a date.
In terms of legislation, or?
Give me a date. Yeah, legislation. I'm more concerned of guidance issued to the lenders. When are the lenders going to have this on their desk on how to process these forgiveness apps?
I'm going to say, I would say today is the 17th. I would say maybe by the end of this month, because I'm assuming SBA has been working on this behind the scenes. They understand these problems, and they're probably waiting just like the rest of us for some guidance from Congress, one way or another.
That's exactly what they're waiting for. Yeah, they want to see how the problem solvers are going to solve this. Katie, what do you think?
I was initially kind of thinking along the same lines as John, around the end of the month, maybe the first week of next month. I would hope that they've been working on this for a while now, so hopefully we'll get that soon.
Lance?
Well, I agree with both of them. And Bob, I'm not just falling in line. Here's my thought process. September the 30th is the end of SBA's fiscal year. I think they'll get something done before the end of the fiscal year.
Well, let's hope so, because I know, Lance, I'm sure your phone's ringing off the hook. A lot of lenders' phones are ringing off the hook on what do we do, correct?
Well, Bob, last night my brother was over. He has a PPP loan. It's less than $150,000. And he's asking his brother, what do I do? And I'm like, just hold tight. Just hold tight. There's, supposedly some simplified forgiveness coming. But, it's not just customers. It's family members, friends, small business owners that you visit. I was getting my hair cut the other day. Same question. They got a PPP loan. What do they do about forgiveness? And I'm like, at some point, Bob, they're going to get tired of me saying, just hang on. Something's coming.
Yesterday, he got a PPP loan. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, the banker I talked to today, and I'll keep his name off the record because we're going to use him in a story soon. That's exactly the guidance they're giving right now. Continue to hold on. Something is likely to come, but I just wonder where is the breaking point for people that they just, and I'm talking borrowers here, they just don't want this hanging over their heads anymore.
Sorry. Just tell me what the rules are, and I'll play by the rules. Katie?
And John, I'm sorry. John makes an incredible point, and this was shared with me by my brother last night. It's not that he's concerned about it. He just wants it to go away. He wants a resolution, and he doesn't want to wait for 3, 4, 5 months to get it. He'd like to have a resolution. He thought he'd be in and out about.
Well, he sounds like he's a prudent entrepreneur, and all of a sudden he's looking at this dollar amount, and he's saying, well, I think it's forgiven. I don't think I have to pay it back. I understand that. All of a sudden he goes, hey, you may be responsible for this. That's scary.
Yeah.
I reminded him that it was a 1% loan, and he's like, oh, yeah.
Katie, the House passed 4 504 related bills. What are they?
So there were 4 bills that passed yesterday. They had a lot of bipartisan support, so that's always good to continue to see. Unfortunately, none of them were PPP related. Everybody was hoping for that. The first bill just authorizes the Community Advantage Program for 5 years, 5 more years, and establishes free training for Community Advantage lenders. Pretty basic. The second bill increases the maximum loan amount for manufacturing loans to $6.5 million, adjusts collateral requirements, and streamlines various processes associated with 504 closing by allowing CDCs to perform closing-related tasks. The third bill shifts the loan closing file review responsibilities to OCRA and allows the SBA to charge CDCs a fee to cover the cost of oversight. And finally, the last bill just grants the Office of Hearing and Appeals jurisdiction over hub zone status appeals.
Great. John, what's the status of this going to be in the Senate?
I would think that all of these bills will pass overwhelmingly. There's certainly some of them are you could call them housekeeping matters, the last 2, but I would be stunned if there's any opposition to the Community Advantage Loan Program. It's small, but its heart is in the right place. And the same thing with 504. It makes it a better program. So
Let's go back to the poll results. What do we have, Joseph? Let's see, that's I pause. Joseph's just putting up the poll questions.
there we go.
No, that's the first poll question, Joseph. Second one. Did we vote on it?
Oh.
There we go.
No, I don't think we voted yet.
I didn't vote.
Can't find it.
I see Joseph is being silent. He's letting me swim on my own here. Here we go. That surprise you, Lance?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, from a banking perspective, you've got typically a real estate fixed asset loan. You've got 50% of the debt and a first mortgage position on the assets is under regular bank term. It's a great loan, Bob, with little risk.
I want to go to the third question, but first I want to bring up to John, Main Street lending. We've nipped at the heels of this. What's going to happen with that program? I guess it's only been utilized for 2% of the funds, and again, billions and billions of dollars. Are they going to revamp it? Are they going to fold it into something? What do you think is going to happen?
I think there will be some revamping. It was discussed just in very broad general terms, as part of the, solution will be and the solution, as I'm talking about the stimulus solution, will be to revamp and rewrite or recast Main Street to make it more attractive. But I haven't heard any specifics yet.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think everyone wants to change it, but I haven't heard specifics on what we specifically can do as an industry and to make it more attractive to the lender. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but I haven't heard of specifics as well. Lance did a webinar yesterday. It was a great webinar on preparing the credit memo in today's interesting times. And we stole a question from that, Lance. What is the number one reason for an incomplete credit memo that's being processed by Citrus Heights?
So, Bob, trick question.
It's not a trick
I think
question.
Bob developed this. Now, first of all of these are reasons for an incomplete credit memo, but look at the question number one, and everyone is going to be surprised that it's life insurance.
And notice we say not addressed. There's nothing wrong with putting a paragraph in that says, for whatever reason, we're not going to obtain it, but that's the number one rule. But credit elsewhere, it looks like still a question in the industry, Lance.
Well, this, again, all of these are reasons that you might have a incomplete credit memo, and I would fall in line with everyone else on credit elsewhere, guys. However, I know the answer to the question. It was not addressing life insurance. SBA loans are made. Typically, the number one reason for credit elsewhere is collateral does not meet the lender's policy requirement. If that's the case, you're supposed to take all available collateral, and one of the steps in possibly taking all available collateral is considering the addition of life insurance. And that actually is one of the number one incomplete issues for a screen out on a credit memo.
This discussion, these came up in a SOP procedural notice a couple months ago. Michael, Joseph, did you attach that in the handouts? I don't know if you did.
I'll go ahead and attach it.
You know what? We're going to sign off here in a minute, so let's just go ahead and attach it tomorrow, and we'll get it. All of these items need to be addressed in the credit memo, whether it's 504 or 78. Correct, Lance?
That's correct. You want to have, most institutions have developed a COVID-19 questionnaire for their borrowers, but you want to address these 7 key factors in your credit memo and the impact that COVID-19 is having on that small business. And again, John and I were talking before we started. Some industries are doing incredibly well in this environment. Not all industries are struggling. Some are doing great.
Well, get the stat. You said liquor store sales are up, what, Lance?
I've worked on a number of projects. Probably the average, Bob, is somewhere in the 20% range.
And then in a couple of years, we'll have the doctor revenues.
Yeah, liver issues.
The liver doctors, look at them. Hey, very good. John, thank you so much for giving your time. Lance and Katie, thank you as always. Good discussion. And thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.